So this is James's wrap. It's green beans, kale, and shallots sautéed with zucchini and bell peppers, black beans, pizza sauce. And he's going to talk about ancient female rulers while I sit and eat my wrap.
Maybe if there's enough time. Popular day hobbies. Waterton by...
Oh yeah, you got to go out over that.
Yeah, because it's got to go back to the library.
Yeah. James has been enjoying it for a long time.
Enjoying it, but also using it. You know, it's useful, not just enjoyable. And then I might be talking today, several days now, about onwards, about ultimate sacrifice, John and Robert Kennedy, and the plan for a coup in Cuba, and the murder of JFK. Also talks a little bit about the murder of RFK, Robert, whatever his name was. So we'll talk about ancient female rulers, because that's got to go back to the library eventually. So yeah, we're talking about how this woman just dismissed Twosworth. She's talking about ancient female rulers, but she just concentrates, women who rule the world. She concentrates on Egypt. And about 3,500 years ago, she's talking about, actually 3,500, 1,500 BC. So the dating system is wrong. She concentrates on the queens of the New Kingdom, two of them actually. Well, it's basically just Hatshepsut, or Hatshepsut as she says it, and that's probably the accepted pronunciation. But we don't know, you know, like we haven't been able to send someone back in a time capsule. How do you pronounce, is it Hatshepsut or Hatshepsut or Hatshepsut? And so she just dismisses in a sentence, as I recall, something to Twosworth. So it came at the end of the 19th dynasty. She talks a little bit more about Nefertiti, and we don't even know if Nefertiti ruled independently as a queen or as a surrogate king or regent or anything like that. We really don't know. We do know that there's one queen who appealed to the king, the contemporary king of the Hittites, for a son of that king to marry her, the queen of Egypt, and act as the king of Egypt. Didn't work out well for the Hittites. They waited about a year, sent one of the princes, one of the sons of, I think you can pronounce his name something like Sapulumas or Sapuluma, and the S is probably something like the Indo-European masculine nominative ending. You find it in many masculine names in Greek, and you'll find it in many masculine names in Latvian and Lithuanian, as I recall. And you'll find it in one of the types of masculine forms in Latin, actually, and in the U.S. It's found and when it's in Latvian and Lithuanian, that's actually considered part of Eastern Indo-European. Greek is kind of off Latin, considered West. I'm not so sure about Greek. But Twosworth, you know, like it was at a period of incredible decline, crisis, and she, of course, she doesn't have the context for it. You know, what it was the first identification I made in the Assyrian annals of a Egyptian king that I made. You can make other identifications from the 25th and 26th dynasty of an Egyptian king, or a king dated by the Egyptian chronology, the conventional chronology, was when it was back in '92. It was around Wednesday, and it's Sipa. The way it was read, and probably still is by Assyriologists, was Siba, and with a either well, they tend to have it Siba A or Siba U. I'm not sure about the ending, but they'd have a glottal stop, Siba A, Siba U. That's what a Cockney says when he's saying bottle. I could say trying to say bottle, but that's his way of saying bottle. Bottle. Glottal stop instead of the double T. Bottle. Battle. The Battle of Hastings. So Siba A or Siba U. But the thing that's used, and yeah, I have actually studied Akkadian, and that's not Cajun music or fiddle music or cooking with maple syrup or stuff like that. It's what the ancient Assyrians and Babylonians used as their language. And then cuneiform script, the syllable that's used for a or u could be read hey or who. They're just guessing. So it's Siba hey, Siba who. Okay, and then they actually just went with a B reading because they wanted to identify with an Ethiopian king called Shabako. And you're saying, say what? Siba A Shabako? Well, it's a bit of a stretch. But I could go with that. They of course get hypercritical when looking at some of the identifications I've made. Understand, my reconstruction of Egyptian chronology does not depend on any single identification or synchronism. There are all sorts of them, but it's actually based on radiocarbon readings to kind of ballpark things, and then it's in many cases it's down to individual years, 857 BC, and then within 2 years, 711 BC. These are eclipses that are dated. They're not mentioned in the Egyptian annals or records, but they are mentioned in the records of peoples whose earlier chronology is based on Egyptian chronology. So so it's actually should have been read Sipa A or Sipa U. Because that's what it is. Sipa is the name of it means shepherd in Sumerian. There's two different ways of reading it. You could read it the Akkadian way, that's a Semitic type of way. Sumerian's a language isolate. So you could read it Sipa or Re. And because the Akkadian for shepherd is Re, something like that. And so you're down to those two readings because there's a pun there. I've talked about this before. The pun is, as for Sipa, he ran off like a shepherd without his sheep. So it's Sipa, shepherd. As for the shepherd, he ran off like a shepherd without his sheep. That's after a battle with the Syrians, roughly in the present-day Gaza Strip. Didn't go well for the Egyptians, shall we say. And who is that? It's not Shabako. They've actually given up on that sort of thing because their little reconstruction of their chronology, even for the Ethiopian period, what they call a period, it's a dynasty. It's contemporary with tons of other dynasties that are listed consecutively in the Egyptian king list, but they are actually coeval, not consecutive. Look that one up in your Funkin' Wagnalls. So, coeval means contemporary. And maybe I should have said contemporary, but I'm kind of tired. I just went with the first thing that occurred to my mind. And sipa, or sipa. Who is that? It's not Shivago. I've had a world-class linguist go to the exercise. Nice guy. Didn't want to do it for half an hour. Took him half a second to make the same identification. It's sipa. Sipta, actually. Why did the Assyrians drop the T off? Well, they wanted to make a pun. Sipta doesn't mean, and so far as I can recall, anything in Syrian. It means the son of Ptah. Ptah is the tutelary god of Memphis. That's the traditional northern capital of Egypt, located now within the not-so-sacred precincts of Cairo, at the head of the delta, where the Nile River distributes into the various distributaries of the Nile, going to the Mediterranean. And what's the key about it? Well, Siptah is the last king of the 19th dynasty. Yeah, there's a problem with the dating system. I mean, he was supposed to have ended his career, ended his life around 1200 BC. Around, the Egyptologists. Oh, what's a few generations, or like 30 years between friends? Well, I'm not yet their friends. I'm not their friend, I should say. They're not my friends. They're not your friends either. They're just friends to themselves, especially to they themselves. They're in them as individuals. They're there to protect them. They're like police. They're there to serve and protect, to serve themselves and protect their own interests. Lots of police guys are that way. I know. I worked in a cop shop here in Lethbridge for a couple of years. Lots of them aren't, but lots of them are. And so Siptah, last king of the 19th dynasty, but it looks as though he's kind of succeeded by what they figure was his mom, Tuasra. It's a period of crisis. Why? They don't understand. Like, what happened to the 19th dynasty? The Assyrians ended it. And from what I can tell from the dating system, Tuasra ruled like for parts of 2 years. And the first king of the 20th dynasty, the succeeding 20th dynasty, they're going, who is this Setnacht, who was the dad of Ramses III, who ruled parts of, I think, something like 32 years. They call him the last of the warrior pharaohs. He wasn't a warrior. Get that straight. He spent a lot of time fighting, but he spent a lot of time losing. And when he did win, it was part of a stronger, he was allied in a coalition with a stronger entity. So Tuasret, from what I can tell, see her big mausoleum, or tomb, I should say, was usurped by Setnacht, the father of Ramses III. And from what I can tell from the dating, they were actually exact contemporary. Setnacht would have, I suspect, he was just, I think, a general. And he took over, started a new dynasty, and I suspect in order to legitimate his rule, married the mom of his predecessor, Siptah, Tuasret. And I don't think it necessarily was a very congenial marriage. I think it was kind of like forced. Tuasret was going, geez, how can I kind of maintain a semblance of control? Oh, at least, I'll marry this general. And he just ruled for parts of 2 years, as I recall. Just an ephemeral kind of ruler, succeeded by his son Ramses III. So it was a period of crisis. And it introduced a period of crisis that lasted for, I think, roughly 65 years. So what's 2020 minus, or 720, I should say, minus 656. That's when the Assyrians were finally kicked out of Egypt by the second king, I believe, of the 26th dynasty. So I think that's roughly 656. That'd be 54. Well, okay, 44 and plus, yeah, 64 years, or parts of 65 years. So Ramses III, what sort of crisis was happening? You know, like in his 5th year, he's fighting so-called Libyans. He's fighting those same folks in his 11th year. He's in his 8th year, and this is the famous one of his famous war of his reign. He's fighting Greeks. Well, you know what? In his 11th year, that's correlated with PA's. What year would that be for him? Something like his. I'm not sure which year, but I'm not sure if his stele is even. So he's an Ethiopian king. I'm not sure if it's even dated, but actually I think it is. But it might be something like his 21st year or something like that. But it's 709 BC. It's hilarious to read his account of this campaign and redate it in 709 BC, exact date. I get this from the Assyrian data. And it's interesting to read the account of the Assyrian account of 712 BC when they're fighting Greeks in the Gaza Strip. And the leader of the Greeks he's called variously Yatnana or something like that. Yatna, I should say. And that might mean a Danan, term for Greek. And he's called even more